Hey everyone, welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Gerard, an audio podcast. Got a really great guest on today. He's a UX research and design leader with 17 years experience based in Barcelona, Spain. He loves to solve complex problems, delight users, and amplify business value. And he's currently designing the future of hospitality at Amenitiz. Please join me in welcoming Kevin Hawkins. Welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
You ready for 20 questions?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Question one, tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
Yeah, so for me, I like to say that we are problem finders and solution providers. So I just try to look at different companies and I see the patterns and how they solve problems, how customers tend to have the same mindset, and essentially apply whatever we're doing uniquely, whether we're in hotels or food, uniquely apply my skills from UX, research, psychology, in determining what people want and how to get them to use what they say they want.
Great. And just a note for our audience, if you guys are looking for the Design Thinkers episodes, definitely check out the recent episode with Jessica Hish. Question two, what's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
Nice. So for me, I come from a family of immigrant entrepreneurs. They moved to the US, moved around the world a lot as kids. And so I grew up in a household of people who were like tinkerers and people who just like didn't have professional, let's say like super like advanced formal education and really figured things out by trying and doing and iterating and fail fast and learn fast. And so just growing up with like a fashion designer as a mom who used to be a nurse, and my dad who was in the military and then opened several rental businesses. I just kind of grew up seeing people figure things out, with their hands and their minds. And that is the one thing that I bring to the table is like having grown up in multiple continents, seeing my parents run businesses and go from nothing to a quite healthy middle class life. I know what it takes to make things work, no matter the odds.
Perfect. And three, why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
To me, it is my first calling. I always say that it's not a job to me, it's a passion. There's like the famous quote, if you do what you love, it's not really work. That's why I do this. For me, it started because I used to work for nonprofits. So I used to be a self-taught web designer, web developer, did business cards with some print design back in the day, and had a lot of small businesses as clients. So people my parents worked with, people in town. And then it kind of developed into me working with the Society for Neuroscience in the USA. And I just got really fascinated by the brain and how it reacts to information and color and priming. And honestly, it's what carried me into UX. It's this idea of behavioral analytics and what makes people motivated to do things or not do things. And honestly, that's the only thing that got me out of bed in the morning. And I said, I need to do everything I can to do this as a full-time job. And I quit school and jumped, dived right into UX.
Great. And some people struggle with number four, but the question is, what does your future look like?
What does my future look like? Definitely it's a large, broad question. In some ways, I've been talking about leaving the design industry for the last 5 years, and I keep saying, oh, in 5 years, I'll be doing something else. Maybe I'll finally give up a corporate job and go back to like tinkering and running a small business and getting my hands dirty. But I don't really know. I think the future for me looks like a mixture of gathering really great people together, whether that be retreats or conferences. I want to do some aspect of like giving back in terms of showing people the world, whether they be on group trips or small intimate gatherings, kind of the experience that I had as a kid and the experience that I really cherish and love to recreate in my free time. So people can see the cultures that they hear about on TV or they watch, but they don't actually get to go and experience firsthand. And somehow mixing that with design, like design in the true sense of, how do people in Japan solve their problems and how do people in Indonesia do this and how do people in Peru do this and actually being up and close and bridging those two worlds together is the kind of thing that I want my future to look like.
Awesome. And number five, we say is unique to this show. The question is, let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
Yeah, I mean, this is a kind of the biggest thread in my life, the common thread between all of my career work and my personal work. I grew up moving a ton. I have four ethnic backgrounds. Like my brother is Filipino. I was born in the US. I've lived in the Netherlands, Spain, Portugal, Australia. Um, and so I just have a lot of deep connection to the places where I live. I love to learn the language when I move a place. I love to learn how to cook the food. I love to kind of explore and hop off the train in random places and explore little towns and villages. So place means a lot to me. The cultural norms, the historical relevance dictates a lot of behaviors, kind of the things we don't even notice we're doing or habits we do are cultural or historical based on where we're from or how we're raised and the years we were there. And so I think place plays a huge part into what I do. And it's really why I love managing both design and research and localization, because not only do we find interesting trends based on location and research, but there's also really cool kind of days kind of managing localization and globalization, internationalization projects when you have to really think about the cultural context, not just the translations, but what does this mean in this country? What is this? What is the first thing that comes to mind when someone hears this term or is told to do this? And that can really be specific to different geos.
Great, I love it. So number six, if you had to start from the beginning, what advice would you give your former younger self?
Former younger self, I love this. The advice that I would give. I mean, I think it would be really all about opening my doors more often. And this has to do with like now I'm at a place in my career where I've been a director for several years and I like to host dinners or like do random invites to other directors or other leaders, other principal designers, etc. To kind of just share. And I'm not precious anymore with like, you know, state secrets and things that I think that are, shortcuts. Like I'm really open source now. I'm really loving the idea of like casual get-togethers and like sharing problems and stories and if that means me hosting a dinner or having a party or, running a meetup, I think that's the really big thing that I didn't do earlier when I was younger is just shoot my shot, send invitations to bring people together. So I thought I had to like get to the stage first. And I just watching some of the really cool conference founders and leaders all over Europe. In the US, you see like really young people who don't have all the experience organizing some of the best, retreats and startups and conferences in the industry. And I just wish I had tried to do that earlier in my career.
Great. And seven, what's a day in your life like?
Day in the life. So yeah, I live in the middle of Barcelona. I can walk to my office in 10 minutes. I can walk to the beach in 15, and I'm half an hour from a really good international airport. So my day is like very random, I would say. Like a typical day would be, I wake up, I talk to a family I have in multiple different time zones, and then I check Slack and go to work. And I'm in a mixture of design reviews with my staff, my team, talking to marketing about go-to-market strategy. I'm on a couple of boards for nonprofits. I usually cook from scratch Italian, dishes like pasta from home. And then I kind of end my day watching trash television, but sometimes it's about architecture or reality TV in a new country, just to kind of understand like what's happening with culture and kind of relax from the day. But I try to fill my day as much as possible with interactions with new people, new information, but a lot of it, of course, is Figma, Slack, and my phone, just keeping up to date with who needs feedback on XYZ designs and checking the performance of our last A/B tests.
Great. And eight, lifelong learning is a popular topic. How do you stay up to date?
Yeah, great segue because I think for me, lifelong learning became this kind of throwaway term for a while. Like I used to actually work at an ed tech company before this, and we tried to make learning cool again, let's say for like the newer generations who are really into augmented reality, really cool like deepfake videos and like just immersive kind of consumption. And I think there's a really interesting thing about going back to basics, because basics are actually refreshing when you've been immersed in one type of media so long. So we did a lot of really cool work with like authors and authors directly talking to people that love their books and love their stories and the worlds that they created and the universes that they wrote. And so for me, lifelong learning is really just a matter of like going back to like analog simple things, like let's go to the forest or a beach, or let's do like a silent retreat. Let's just ask regular people what is bothering them, what's on their mind, what are they worried about, what are they concerned about, what do they wish the world was like, and kind of finding those patterns, those themes. I read a lot of books, a lot of documentaries, and then I try to travel as much as possible and just kind of do these little off the beaten path kind of trips into little villages and towns, see things for myself, ask kind of funny questions, and then I keep trying to learn languages, but that's a bit hard when I keep moving around. But generally, I would say asking good questions and reading things that are not as popular as everything else.
Great. And 9 is about tools. What tools do you use? Are you digital and analog?
Yeah, so for tools, I'm pretty digital. Like I kind of like precision way more than the everyday person, like borderline ADHD and OCD when it comes to like things aligning, color schemes matching, just the start and stop of things. So for me, tools are, mostly Figma, Adobe Suite, lots of, really well formatted Notion templates. And then in terms of like physical tools, I do love a whiteboard. Um, I think I obsess over my handwriting. So I do like a whiteboard when I can kind of rapidly share and the expectations for precision kind of go away. I love running workshops and facilitating kind of brainstormings or how might we sessions. And so my tools are 99% digital, your typical software that we all use like Miro and all that. But I really do love kind of getting out in the field or kind of getting people away from their screens for a whiteboarding session and some sticky notes if I can. I am like digital first. I'm very, very quick to iterate digitally versus do lots of like sketches and kind of crazy eight work in my design process. But I do really love the part where you just talk to people and do some kind of casual, doodles and notes and kind of organize after.
Nice. And halfway number 10, how do you deal with work-life balance?
It's probably the hardest thing I've struggled with. It was the real reason why I actually moved back to Europe a couple of years ago when I moved to Booking.com was really about going to a country where culturally there was a bit more of a priority for work-life balance. Um, I like the culture of like working 36 hours as a country standard and being told to go home and people being given, large amounts of holiday, and the expectation that you leave and you go and take that holiday, not just that your company gives them limited holidays and they actually don't encourage taking it. So for me, work-life balance started really first by like moving to a place that encouraged it, and then really getting really scheduled about my time. I used to hate calendars and then moved to the Netherlands, and it was very much a scheduled, cultured place where trying to see friends and family or just anybody you met, they'd look at their calendar 3 months in advance and they'd say, let's hang out in October, and it would be June. And so I got really good at prioritizing and thinking about what I want to do with my time and what I don't want to do with my time, and just blocking out that time, which is super good. It's super nice to kind of be expected to say no. And then since leaving the Netherlands, it's been really nice to kind of have that experience where I block out some weekends and I don't see my friends and I go on a solo trip or, just to go meditate or go to the beach or learn a new skill like surfing or go to Spanish classes and not be kind of judged for being busy when it is busy, not on things that are commercial, but things that are for me. And so I kind of love now being busy on things that are for me and not, another business or another conference. I still make time for mentoring and public speaking, which I love to do, but I try to focus more on me time to make sure that they're kind of equally one third work, one third personal projects, 1/3 things for me.
Great. And 11, if you weren't doing what you do now, what might you be doing?
Always thought about this question, and I feel like I don't really know. Like, one part of me thinks that like my second passion was being a musician. As a kid, I played lots of instruments. I played piano for 15 years, cello for 5 or 6, but it's never been like a burning passion to do that on stage. And since I do like making money for the things I do, I thought, if I'm not going to be willing to do it in front of people, this probably can't be considered a profession or a career. I'm not the kind of person to like make my own album. I kind of like bands and that kind of thing. So if I wasn't doing design for like product design, UX, I probably would still be in design, but for maybe interiors. Like I really like designing the function of a space. I like thinking about who needs to use that space, the kind of compliance, accessibility needs, but then in addition, kind of playing with the unexpected to make it delightful and interesting, and whatever the goal for the space is, to really think about that. So for it's a room for work, what are the best environmental things you can change, lighting direction, sound, whatever, to actually optimize the purpose it has, which is being a workspace. So yeah, I love interior design. I think that's probably what I would do if I wasn't in product design.
And how about what would you not like to do with your career?
What I not like to with my career. I mean, I think I'm getting closer and closer to not being interested in being a chief design officer. Like I actually used to love the idea of like we're gonna get more seats at the table and design's gonna be a C-suite, but I'm on boards and I advise companies and I public speak and I consult for some CEOs, and I don't actually think I want that to be my full-time job. I really like still being hands-on. I love being a player coach. I recently just stepped some would say backwards, some would say left, in my career, where I've been climbing the ladder from, a manager of a 5-person team to the senior director, global director of a 106-person team. Now I manage, 7 people again. And I built this team from scratch over the last 7 months. And I just love it so much more because not only am I, mentoring the new designers in the industry, but we're also building brand new products. We're overhauling an existing one. I'm still hands-on. I'm in Figma every now and then. I'm still shipping code. I've talked to the devs, and like I do A/B tests and QA and make suggestions sometimes. And it's just I find it to be equally rewarding as like convincing vice presidents and budget owners and business unit heads to prioritize UX or customer feedback. And so I just really I like that more. And so I'm getting further away from being interested in being a C-suite executive in design, just because I feel like it no longer focuses on design and my job mostly becomes stakeholder management.
Great. And do you have a favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Yeah, it's tattooed on me and it's in all of my like I have a series of jackets and suits that I have this, and it's knowledge is power, but in Latin, which is estás. It's like I'm gonna quote this incorrectly, which would be really bad. Let me see if I can pull it up super quick. It's like knowledge is power in Latin, which is scientia potentia est. So it's kind of based on an original quote, which roughly translates to gold is power, but gold used to be a synonym for value, which I consider to be knowledge.
Great. And how about a least favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Least favorite, I think it would be it can't be done. Or no, actually take that back. My least favorite is this is how we've always done it.
Hmm.
I literally can't stand being told that or hearing that.
If you had to choose one word to describe yourself, what word would it be?
Hmm. Unexpected.
What keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? I think designing at a large scale, what I worry about is when I'm at a company that's leading in the space, I kind of think that if we don't do something very well, we will set a precedent that everyone else will copy. And I think about whether or not we've like missed a use case or if we've ostracized a user group or an audience, and that becomes the norm. So there is some liability, responsibility we have when we make large systems, especially if people copy those systems, especially if you're advising that they do or you're sharing it as a resource. And so I kind of stay up at night sometimes thinking, could I have done this better? Could I have given better advice? Could I have caught, should I have included more people in reviewing this to maybe make it more inclusive?
Great. And final stretch here. What's the dream you're chasing?
The dream I'm chasing. Honestly, I would love for there to be a way for me to not have to be like the director or the owner or the founder or an executive and still be able to like grow in salary and do what I love and live comfortably. And so this is mostly like a socio-economic battle I'm having where I just wish that ladder chasing was not the only way to have a prosperous, happy life and still live in places that are, relatively expensive compared to others.
Great. And what inspires you?
I think I get the most inspiration nowadays from probably like analog architecture. And I say that in the terms of I really like the way things are built in like villages or towns or even tribes, like things that are not modernized and updated and industrialized, but just like some of the best techniques and best practices and strongest builds have come from really old methods that people have either not learned or forgotten or we've lost. And I just really like looking at the ingenuity of people who came before and built things really well and maybe didn't get the credit or the documentation that they needed to have that be passed on.
Great. And last couple here. Any advice you'd like to share?
Yeah, my favorite piece of advice is to just reach out. I think the biggest jumps in my career, the biggest personal jumps I've ever had, have always been kind of ignoring the doubt, ignoring this idea of risk and fear, and just doing it and just seeing what can happen. Whether that be a phone call or an email or a cold message to a person who you would like to speak with, meet for a coffee, ask for a mentorship, ask for a job, go on a date, whatever it be. I think people talk themselves out of doing things that they're more than capable of. I think people are unknowingly capable of so much more than they give themselves credit for. And so my piece of advice would be to just try to do it.
Great. And finally, number 20. How can our listeners keep tabs on you? What's their call to action?
Yeah, so for keeping tabs on me, like I'm most active in terms of new content on Instagram. I post on stories. I will start posting more on actual posts. Second to that is LinkedIn. It's where I do all my public speaking and share kind of stuff on the industry. And then I do mentorship via ADP list. It's where you can book time with me. Happy to give advice, ask good questions, poke holes and ideas you have and review portfolios and also do referrals for jobs. So reach out anytime. All my channels are open. And yeah, I'm here.
Great. Well, thanks so much. Your global footprint is really inspiring. Glad to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.